Welcome back to my visual podcast series. I'm Hans Rey and these are my tales of adventure. Today is episode number 9 from 2019 when we went to Tasmania. This is a really amazing story and an amazing destination, maybe one of the best places to ride your bike, period. And definitely a bucket list spot. And if you never had a reason to go to this part of the world before, after you hear this story, you will have one. The story was written and photographed by Carmen Rey, and she will be our special guest in this episode to narrate her tale, or shall I say mountain bike fairy tale. Without further ado, here we go.
Yeah, so I'm going to be reading the story this week because I wrote it, and Derby is a place that is very dear to my heart. It's such an incredible story about the socio-economic impact of mountain bike trails on a whole community, in fact, the whole island. So let me start telling you the fairy tale. Two seismic events hit the small town of Derby, located on the northeast of Tasmania. The first was a dam bursting in 1929, releasing a torrent of water that rapidly sluiced through the town, washing away houses and lives. The second colossal epoch was, and continues to be, mountain biking. Who would have thought that a small mining town decimated by tragedy, then deserted by big business, could have a renaissance of such magnitude? This rebirth did not come about by accident, but rather by progressive thought, planning, determination, sheer dogged-mindedness, and genius trail builders. Back in 2016, I visited Derby along with Tyler McCall and Hans Rey on the invitation of Tim Watson of Dorset Council, the driving force behind the Blue Derby Trails, and at the suggestion of Glenn Jacobs, the master trail builder and designer and the head of World Trail. Why? To photograph Hans and Tyler riding the trails and write about this mountain biking heaven that perhaps can never be replicated anywhere on the world. Back then, the trail system, named Blue Derby, was still relatively unknown. Not so now. It has been well and truly discovered, experienced by riders from around the globe, and even hosting 2 EWS races, subsequently winning an award for the best EWS track in the 2017 and 2019 event series for Detonate and Kamagutsa. This small town is now most definitely on the map as a must-go-to destination to have the most amazing fun riding a bike. Now 3 years later, it was time to return and see firsthand how the town has grown and the trail network expanded, not only those within Blue Derby, because incredibly the trails have extended to flow all the way to the quaint coastal town St. Helens, a town with a retro vibe, sandwiched between aquamarine sea with white soft sandy beaches and forest preserve. This place is the perfect counterpart to the temperate rainforests surrounding Derby. St. Helens also claims 84 kilometres of purpose-built mountain bike trails within its trail centre close to the town, with an added 42 kilometres connecting the beaches of Bay of Fires, from which it derives its name, to the now legendary Blue Tier at Pumina, which in turn links to Big Chuck near Wellborough. Just as with Blue Derby, there is something for everyone here, for all levels and all ages, and the network is still growing. There are multiple factors that have to come together to create the perfect mountain biking destination. A picturesque town, not too far from an airport, one with an infrastructure such as bike shops, shuttles, restaurants, accommodation and public amenities, and of course, a pub. All in close proximity and easily accessible, and all within a short riding distance from a choice of stunning trails, set in a beautiful landscape and suitable for all skills. Derby with its Blue Derby trails ticks all of the boxes. It's a town that in every sense is about mountain biking and mountain bikers. Whether you're an absolute beginner feeling dirt under your tyres for the first time, an XC hardtailer or a jump junkie, you'll find your inner spirit level soar as you experience some or all of the 123 kilometres of purpose-built mountain bike trails. But that is not all. There is another vital thing that makes Blue Derby extra special: the unique landscape and the dirt. Temperate rainforest thick with lush fauna, framed by canopies of tree ferns, sunlight dappling through the fronds, creating a filigree of shadows reflected on the waterfalls and streams. Sticky dirt, smooth dirt, groomed dirt, perfect dirt, almost all year round. This story is about more than superb riding trails. It's a story about how the quality of trails have revitalized a former mining town, spawning numerous businesses, providing jobs, and reviving a local economy that was pretty much dead. As Hans Rey says,
"Build the trails and they will come."
We drove into Derby, passing the Dorset Hotel and Pub on our left, situated next door to the free-to-use campground and linked to the trailhead by a dirt track snaking alongside the river. It gives safe car-free access to much of the accommodation, restaurants, shops, public showers and toilets. The Dorset was somewhat dormant in 2016, pretty much empty every evening, but now it's thriving, bursting at the seams with customers wanting to eat, drink and sleep. It is here that you'll find people 7 days a week propping up the bar or outside in the beer garden, enjoying live music and swapping their riding stories about which trails they hit. From Friday to Tuesday night, you better make sure you book a table if you want to eat there. And if you want to rest your weary body, there are 8 newly refurbished guest rooms to lay your head. Brooke and Sean MacDonald are an example of that entrepreneurial spirit, which we are seeing quite a lot of in Derby now, thanks to mountain bikes. They didn't have a background in hospitality. A former miner and a teacher, they wanted a completely different life. Sean had heard about Derby and the Dorset Hotel. He then persuaded his wife Brooke and their children that buying the Dorset would be an excellent move for their next stage. They and their children upped sticks in late 2017, leaving the mainland behind, and embarked on a 6-month slog to bring the Dorset up to standard. It was a struggle, and due to the difficulty in finding trails that had a time slot for their work, they took much of the restoration upon themselves. I am hard pushed to think of other hosts as hospitable and hard-working as Sean and Brooke. I was soon to find out that there were many more examples of couples with that entrepreneurial pioneer spirit in this town, those that took a gamble, worked hard, listened to what people wanted and needed, and acted on it. As we progressed along the main street, we saw that the post office and the postmaster's house, where we stayed in 2016, was still there, but painted a different colour and with new owners. It was evident that there was a construction boom underway. On empty sites, new houses have been and are being built, and most of what were severely run-down cottages are newly renovated. Most have become guest houses to accommodate all of those riders. Across the road from the post office, the Painted Door Cafe is now the 2 Doors Down Cafe, and next to this, alongside one another, are 2 top-quality bike shops, Vertigo and Evolution. We had already met Buck Gibson, the owner of Vertigo, back in 2016, when he and his wife Jude started out with a bike rental and shuttle service. Those initial 2 trucks and trailers have now evolved into 11 covering Derby, Welborough, Pomina and St Helens, and their shop, Vertigo, is stocked with top-quality bicycle merchandise and numerous rental bikes, both regular, MTB and EMTBs. Both Buck and Jude are the most helpful and friendly people, and their staff are as enthusiastic and passionate about what they are doing as they are. Buck and Jude also expanded into hospitality. They own the cafe 2 Doors Down, which is literally 2 doors down. Sandwiched between Vertigo and the cafe is Evolution Bike and Rental Shop. Started by Ben and Anastasia Jones a couple of years previously, they, like Sean and Brooke, were ready for something different. A challenge, even if risky. That entrepreneurial spirit kicked in and overrode any hindering doubt. Ben persuaded 36 weeks pregnant Anastasia to swap Whistler for Derby. Just like the gold rush pioneers of California once upon a long, long time ago, this pocket of people saw something, the potential for this dormant town in Tasmania, the gold mine, but in this case it wasn't literal gold, it was the creation of the most exquisitely fluid mountain bike trails. It is easy to say in retrospect that of course this would be a thing, the perfect mountain bike destination and the gold standard that meets every requisite, But that would be a false assumption. Some people are just braver than others. They have more foresight and are prepared to take a risk and run with it. Whether already residents of Tasmania or coming from an ocean away, these people seized an opportunity. They rolled up their sleeves, worked extremely hard, and seemed to love every moment of what they do. Oh, how things have changed in 3 short years. The trails have been added to. Besides the choice of bike shops stocked with everything you could need or desire, accommodation has grown from a few beds to hundreds of beds. Property that no one wanted to own is now being snapped up quicker than you can click your fingers, and the pub is full every night. Word has definitely spread. In a short time, Derby has gone from hibernating to thriving, and it's all down to mountain bikes. In just a few days, I met people from Colorado, Norway, Switzerland, Belgium, and New Zealand, all super stoked with what they found there. Blue Derby is now on the international map as a go-to destination to ride. There are no straight lines in nature. There's the fluidity, and that word quite nicely describes the trails of Blue Derby, including Little Chook, Big Chook, and Blue Tear, and the new connected trail, Bay of Fires. Although this area has a beauty that evolves and unfolds into something different with every switchback and berm, the process of getting to the point where we riders could enjoy all this was a little less beautiful. When being tasked to build a mountain bike trail system, the pathos would be that nothing is more challenging than dealing with nature and man. Man, because of the bureaucracy which tends to nurture headaches and problems at every level, and nature because it is wild and untamable and littered with huge obstacles along the way. This is where the progressive thought, planning, determination and genius trail builders I mentioned earlier comes in. Tim Watsett of Dorset Council fought tooth and nail to get the federal funding which would pay for the trails to be constructed in Derby. He dealt with the red tape with utter determination, never accepting no for an answer. If there was a problem, he found a way round it. Tim was determined from the beginning that World Trail, headed up by Glenn Jacobs, was the best company to build some of the best trails in the world and put Derby on the map. Tim and his opposite number at Break a Day Council, John Brown, knew that created magnificent trails will not just benefit the northeast, but the whole of Tasmania. Politicians had to be on board. To do this, the councillors had to sell a vision. Without the funding, nothing would happen. The numbers are testament to how right they were. Additional revenue from tourism in Tasmania has risen by 30 million Australian dollars, and in Derby alone, a conservative estimate of 12 million. Stats show that visitors spend on average 5 nights in Derby, with an additional 5 nights exploring the rest of Tasmania. Derby has seen and added 120 jobs and 200 beds since January 2015. To put it into context, before the trails, there were approximately 170 residents and only a handful of jobs in this forgotten town. Put simply, when mining and the lumber industry left, the biking world arrived. Some of the best riders in the world have discovered Blue Derby, and the best enduro riders have raced there. The persistence of Ian Harwood paid off when the EWS hosted a race here twice and won the award for the best racetrack in the 2017 and again 2019 series. Without a doubt, World Trail is a huge factor in why the trails of Blue Derby and St. Helens and all those in between are so incredible. They forge a way that follows a natural path and embraces the granite slabs, created an icon out of Big Crack, that stone monolith seen in so many Instagram posts. They packed down dirt and built up stone walls to transform what was once open-cast mining land into one of the most iconic stretches of trails ever, Twisties. On our first day, we explored a few new ones. Trouty, a somewhat more hardcore trail that rolls down huge granite slabs, offering up a bird's eye view of the lake and town below, before dropping into a rock garden for the final stretch. For Hans, this was a ton of fun. From there, we joined the new green Easy Line Trail along Lake Derby, now accessible by a newly constructed suspension bridge, serving bikers and walkers alike. This new single track is perfect for families and someone wanting to test their tyres on dirt for the first time. This meanders lazily along to Watcha Apta. A gradual climb up a series of perfectly constructed switchbacks opens up to a jaw-dropping view of the lake and the town sprawled along the valley opposite. What goes up must come down. And so we did, along a series of mildly technical flowy trails with some pump and easy berms on the way to the bottom. We were joined one day by Miles Smith, a young local shredder who 3 years ago had never ridden a mountain bike. Now, with all of these amazing trails on his doorstep, he not only rides, he races at a top level. Hans describes his riding style.
Very fast, smooth and stylish. The natural talent he has acquired in such a short time blew me away.
Along with Miles, we experienced some more new trails and revisited some of the originals. Starting with twisties, we climbed the smooth groomed switchbacks and headed to Tasty Trout Falls, and a perfect photo op to capture Hans and Miles taking a line on a challenging rock drop, which is avoidable for the scaredy cats among us, like me. One of the predictable things about Blue Derby is the unpredictability of the views. Just as we are trying to absorb the visual delights of the arbour of foliage above and around us as we are riding through, we were blindsided when our view changed instantly to that of vivid colour provided by wild pink foxgloves and a lawn of periwinkle in blue that so perfectly frame yet another view of the lake and the town below. But wait, there was more. The pods, rather wonderful huts, formed to be embraced by the nature surrounding them and provide a unique shelter for mountain bikers wanting to ride, tour and sleep within this wonderful landscape. Anyone can stay and enjoy this special place as long as you A, ride there, and B, are part of the tour, and C, respect and love the environment that envelopes you. We continued on to the tunnel. Glenn Jacobs explained the interesting story behind this most unique of mountain bike experiences. The tunnel has always been there, the entrance obscured by untamed forestry. It was originally blasted out of the rocky hill by an industrious miner wanting to get his tin out from his land and onto public land. But there was a problem. The land between belonged to someone else, and that person forbade him from crossing that which he owned. No problem, thought the determined tin miner. He would just dynamite his way through his neighbour's hill and build a tunnel. The route has been cleared and lights added to illuminate the way, so with our heads down we pedalled along a 1/2 kilometre of almost darkness, waiting to see a pinprick of natural light on the other side. Then from there, a ride down Deadly Bugger. The name intimidated me no end. And then Flickety Sticks, which was as fun as its name implies, back to the trailhead. After a quick bite at 2 doors down, it was time to take a shuttle courtesy of Ben and his Evolution ATV to the top of Air Yagan, a fun trail of big rollers and magnificent berms. This is the sort of trail where Hans and Miles railed those berms at full pelt, inside foot down, and got some serious air over the rollers. But if you're not as advanced as they are, you can just roll through. It's seriously fun. Air Yagan, which is a black diamond trail, carries on from Kamagutsa, which is the double black. This is the one that won the award for the best track in the EWS series in 2019. There is something beautiful about watching riders with great skills riding with such style, getting big air and seemingly floating as they ride all the way back down to town. Even back down by the trailhead, we discovered that things had changed. Another fun feature, a pump track, where Hans took a turn on the heels of some young ones, honing their skills with each lap. The day had been an epic one, but we were exhausted. Thus, we were very grateful that, unlike in 2016, we no longer had to go far to find dinner. With a pedal along the dirt path, we arrived at the Dorset in time to enjoy the live band in the beer garden as the sun set, and we, like so many others, swapped our riding stories. Another charming thing about Derby is how the town is proud of its history and the people preserve it. Besides the nod to this, with some of the quirky trail names like Dambusters and Krushkas, Detonate and Axehead, and many more, there are plenty of period homes reminiscent of a time when the town was thriving nearly a century ago. There are 2 museums, one an interactive centre explaining the history of the mine and the devastation incurred when the dam burst. The other is the old schoolhouse, which hosts a plethora of memorabilia and old photos that take us back in time. After several days becoming reacquainted with Derby and Blue Derby, it was time to pack our bags and head towards the coast and become some of the first to ride the new Bay of Fires trail that connects Blue Tier to St. Helens. But first, on our way, we stopped off at Big Chuck, access via Welborough. Hans, Tyler and I had ridden this in 2016, but had heard that the trail crew had been working on it and that it was better than ever. And it was. This trail is immense fun, a series of rollers and big berms so perfectly constructed that riding it's like gliding. All the while you're trying to take in as much of the stunning surroundings as you can while you're trying to absorb just how much fun you're having. To quote Hans again,
these are the kind of trails you ride twice, first with your eyes and then you actually ride them.
It is sometimes hard to do justice with words as to just how incredibly beautiful this place is to ride, or how masterfully the trails have been created. It was after this, early on a misty morning, with the sun teasing us in the distance, that we set off, along with Kathy, an avid rider from Cairns, to experience the new Bay of Fires mega trail. Considering the distance and that there would be a fair amount of pedalling, Hans decided that this would be the perfect time to ride e-bikes. It is another plus about Derby and St. Helens that e-bikes are welcome, although not required, thanks to the topography. However, they are so much fun and they make it easier to ride for longer and farther. With so many options to ride, e-bikes can be a real addition to the whoop factor. As it turned out, it was a good decision. 42 kilometres on dirt is a distance, and you feel it, even on an e-bike. What was it like? Honestly, one of the most fun trails we have ever ridden. World Trail have done it again, created a playground for mountain bikers carved out of the natural terrain with integrity and appreciation of the landscape which ever changed as the kilometres rolled us away from Derby and closer to St. Helens. The tree ferns gave way to ironbarks, the gigantic boulders remained, and the waterfalls were exchanged for an ocean view. This trail epitomizes Hans's definition of a flow country trail. Never too hard, never too steep, and never too dangerous. Smaller boulders create perfect natural rollers scattered along the long ribbon of dirt, with perfect berms railing you into the next line. This really was like flying, like being a kid again, being in the moment and feeling absolute joy. The fun didn't stop at the dazzlingly gorgeous waters of the Tasman Sea. We continued on thanks to a quick shuttle from Vertigo to the St. Helens Trail Centre, where we were met by a lot of seriously excited riders of all ages ready to sample the new trails which officially opened that day. Once again, great importance was placed on providing the necessary infrastructure and facilities and to provide trails for all types and abilities of mountain bike riders. From families with young children, hardcore riders and veterans of the sport, there is something perfect for everyone. Even the easier trails can be enjoyed by more advanced riders. They just go faster and pump it. One family that I couldn't help notice because one of their sons was sporting a Union Jack helmet told us of how they live near Mount Buller, about 2 hours from Melbourne on the mainland. They were enjoying travelling around Tassie and testing the mountain bike hotspots. Were they impressed? Oh yes. The young fella told us that his favourite was You Going? Pretty impressive. Remember, it is a black diamond, and I have no doubt that this little shredder will grow into another Miles Smith someday, not that far away. The brilliant idea of creating a trail linking one fabulous riding destination to another came from Gerard McHugh, Chief Planning Consultant at World Trail, and once again Tim Watson and John Brown worked to make an idea a reality. This massive undertaking means that the northeast of Tasmania can now boast 123 kilometres at Derby, including Blue Tier, and 116 kilometres in St. Helens, including the Bay of Fires. This total of 239 kilometres, still ever growing, really establishes this region as a global go-to location for mountain bikers. As I close this story about a world-class riding destination at the world's end, I have to finish with the renaissance of that small town in Tasmania, Derby, because a rebirth did occur and the town continues to thrive. This is an example of how mountain biking trails fuel both the local economy and the economy of Tasmania as a whole. It breathed life into a community. It created jobs, provided hope, inspired industrious ideas and actions, and gave us perfect dirt, perfect trails, cradled by absolutely perfect nature. And so, to end on another quote from Hans Rey,
Derby does not merely tolerate mountain bikers, it's really all about mountain bikers.
And I say, there are not many places on our beautiful planet that can make that claim.
Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this story. Big thanks to Carmen for her photos and for writing the story. Please click on the links here if you want to watch the video clips from Blue Derby and St. Helens. Happy trails until next time.
Bye.